Monday edition of PFT OT, the place where we address the things we either didn't get to or want to talk about in more detail during the 2 hours that we had PFT Live. Chris Simms, Mike Florio here with you. And let's continue the Earl Thomas conversation, Chris, from the perspective of future options. We mentioned on the way out on PFT Live that Mike McCarthy, the Cowboys coach, speaking to reporters today, said that he's very confident with his roster. Here's the quote, courtesy of Clarence Hill of the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. We're very confident in where we are as far as the 80-man roster. As far as any prospect that's available, those are more conversations for Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones, and Will McClay. As far as looking at that situation, I have nothing really to report. So the door's not shut.
Right.
But McCarthy's saying, hey, I'm fine with who I have. If you read between the lines, you can maybe see McCarthy saying probably not something we're looking for, but again, it's above his pay grade literally to make those decisions.
Yeah, no, it definitely is, and we know they have flirted with Earl Thomas in the past before. Earl Thomas, being a Texas Longhorn, I mean, the two biggest entities in that state are the Texas Longhorn and the Dallas Cowboys, so I understand him wanting to go there and all that, but, as we talked about on the show, one, this is a Cowboy team that's, got a lot of things to be happy about on the roster. Do we want to bring in, an older star Hall of Fame type player that's past his prime that certainly seems to be somewhat of an annoyance in the last two locker rooms he was in? So do you want to deal with that? And then the big thing, too, is, Chris Richard's not there anymore, or they're not running that Seattle defense. Mike Nolan's there. So I don't know if they fancy the type of player that he is for that scheme and the fit and all that like they used to in the old days. So it'll be interesting. I really am intrigued to see who gets involved in this Earl Thomas conversation.
Yeah, and the Atlanta Falcons, Dan Quinn says no, and that's where we start pushing back on this idea that because somebody played with somebody, worked with somebody, that means they're going to want to work together again. Well, no, there's a chance that Dan Quinn looks at it and says, I've done my time with Earl Thomas. And if Earl Thomas isn't the player that he was several years ago, it's like the Antonio Brown dynamic. You'll deal with the personality as long as the player is off the charts great.
Exactly.
When the player starts to dip, we don't want to deal with the person. And for Dan Quinn to come out today and say affirmatively no Earl Thomas in Atlanta, they run that defense for crying out loud.
Yeah.
That's another red flag to do your homework, talk to your friends, tap your network, do your research, and find out exactly what went down with Earl Thomas in Seattle and Baltimore before you go out on a limb.
Well, exactly right. And again, like Earl Thomas, amazing player, Hall of Famer. I mean, a part of a special defense. We talked about all of that. But the simple reality of the situation is right now, in this point of his career, he's not as good as Ricardo Allen or Keanu O'Neal. He can't start over them. They're better than him. There's going to be a number of teams where I think, the normal, casual, everyday fan's going to look at it and go, why wouldn't we want Earl Thomas? Why wouldn't we want Earl Thomas? Because he's still a big name and flashing lights, and he's a household name. But the reality to me, and again, I'm Ron Jaworski and I watch the film and all that crap. We're talking about a middle of the pack, and I mean not like on the edge of like, he's just in the middle of the pack, just on the edge of the cream of the crop. No, he is severely entrenched in the middle of the pack, maybe in the back end of the middle of the pack where he is at this point of his career. So that's where I just think it's going to be hard, too, between the attitude, the play, what kind of price is he going to demand, all of those things I think are going to make teams question it a little bit.
And lest you feel bad for Earl Thomas, he got $20 million from the Ravens for 1 year with the team, and he has at least an effort, a claim, a possibility of another $10 million, depending upon how the inevitable grievance unfolds between the Ravens and the National Football League Players Association. All right. There was a grievance filed by Colin Kaepernick a couple of years ago against the NFL for colluding to keep him out. It's all well documented. We know the story by now. It was actually 4 years ago, Thursday, that Colin Kaepernick was first noticed not standing for the national anthem prior to a preseason game. He didn't stand for the first two, but he wasn't in uniform. It was the third preseason game, August 27, 2016. He was in uniform. You could see the name emblazoned across the back of the jersey. That's when the issue began. And here we are still talking about it. And we're talking about it today not because we're just looking for something to talk about. We're talking about it, Chris, because the commissioner was a guest on Emmanuel Acho's very excellent digital series, Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man.
Right.
And the question came up, and Acho asked him point blank, what would you say by way of apology or expression of remorse to Colin Kaepernick? Here's what Goodell said. The first thing I'd say is I'd wish we had listened earlier, Cap, to what you were kneeling about and what you were trying to bring attention to. He immediately follows it with this. We had invited him in several times to have the conversation, have the dialogue. I wish we had the benefit of that. We never did. And, we would have benefited from it absolutely. There's a pivot there. It's a subtle pivot to throw blame on Colin Kaepernick for never accepting their invitation to come in and talk. Well, here's the thing. Let's go back to August of 2016. After this happened on a Friday night, it was a Sunday morning that Colin Kaepernick met with the media and explained why he was doing what he was doing. He explained it exactly the way that he always has. It's because of police brutality. It's because you get a license to carry lethal force in your hand with half of the training that's required to carry a curling iron in your hand. At least in California, that was the case at the time.
Yes.
So he made it clear. What more did anyone need to hear? It's that they didn't want to hear. It's that we reject your premise. It's that anything other than standing at attention during the national anthem is disrespect to the flag, the military, and the country, and we don't care what your explanation is. So nothing he would have said in August of 2016 if he had gone straight to 345 Park Avenue would have made a damn bit of difference. So that we need to put that in context. That this isn't some secret code that needs to be revealed in a closed-door meeting. He said publicly, August 29, 2016, exactly why he was doing what he was doing. And that's why after George Floyd was killed, so many of us were like, yeah, Kaepernick told us about this 4 years ago.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, the NFL dropped the ball. There's no other way to really, skirt around this. They messed up. They should have confronted this head on the first time around. And then, of course, they bowed to the political pressures at that moment. And, quite honestly, it didn't seem like our society was in the same place to be as accepting as it is right now. I mean, unfortunately, it took lots and lots of unarmed black people to be shot dead for, misdemeanors and things that they had should never be shot or anything like that. And now there's remorse, and it's opened the eyes of America and a lot of people. Now, I would still say there's a lot of crazy crap going on there right now, but yeah, the NFL, they did them dirty. There's no doubt about it. And I really did think that they were going to try to find a way to get him on a team or a roster here by this time. Just, in some capacity, especially with the rules being different this year and the extra people on the practice squads and all of that. But I still think it's showing you these teams are scared to do it. They're still scared of the backlash they're going to get. Racism's still going, and it's still thriving here in America. I mean, I'm not so sure it hasn't gotten worse here the last few weeks. So it's driving me crazy. And, of course, because of that, teams, they want money and don't want to deal with the controversy. And I'm sure they're chickening out when it comes to this type of conversation with Colin Kaepernick.
That excellent video that was ultimately produced by an NFL employee who went rogue with all the players one after another saying what they want from the league. When the commissioner matched that the next day, and he was praised for it, and rightfully so. It was the most they've ever done to acknowledge that they were wrong about anything really ever. But the players wanted a specific acknowledgement of Kaepernick. The video from Roger Goodell did not include it. And, even with that, a sense developed in June that, hey, you know what? I can't believe it. He's actually going to end up on a team. And then I got the sense, Chris, and we've talked about it before on the show, that they were just running out the clock.
Yeah.
Let's just make it look like it's going to happen
right
until the world moves on to something else, because it always does, and we no longer have this unrelenting pressure to give Colin Kaepernick a job. And here we are, 2.5 months later, from Memorial Day to the brink of Labor Day, and it hasn't happened. And as you said, it's a different kind of a year. And you can have 4 guys on your practice squad, 4 guys who have unlimited NFL experience now. And there's urgency to have quarterbacks available and healthy and ready to go. So I'm going to say what I've said all along. The commissioner can make this happen if he wants to. He has the power to get Colin Kaepernick on a team. There are ways to do it if you really want to do it. There are favors that can be traded. There are promises that can be made. This is how business gets done. Whether it's private organization, public organization, this is how it happens. If you truly want something, if you want it, and you're the commissioner, if you're the guy in charge, there's a way to make it happen. The question is, do you really want it? And until Colin Kaepernick's on a roster, anything the commissioner or anyone else says about him is just noise. It's meaningless. It's not a real apology. It's a hollow apology. It's an incomplete apology until he's back on a roster. And if he wanted it to happen, the commissioner could make it happen. And until it happens, it's just talk, Chris. And now we have to talk about it.
Yeah.
It would be neglectful for us to not mention it because it's the commissioner on the record answering the tough question. I just don't accept it as an apology per se until the situation giving rise to the apology is rectified.
Well,
get him back on a team.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. You know, like I hear you with the commissioner thing too, but I also want to be like, well, you know, the 32 owners need to get behind it too, and you know, pressure the commissioner to keep this on his radar and think about it and go, hey, this is what we need for the sport. But I doubt that's happening. I don't know. I don't seem to hear any clamoring that way, and it's unfortunate because yes, Colin Kaepernick. He sacrificed some great physical ability for a greater good. And now we see that he was right and nothing's being done about it. And that stinks. And then this is it. Like, you know, you and I thought there might be a chance he'd get on a team this year. And this was dicey to begin with, let alone how long it's been since he played football. He's not on a team here in the next week or two. It's over forever, at least in my book. I mean, and I'm not trying to say that to be insensitive, but you know what I'm saying. Through the NFL coaches' eyes and the GMs, they're going to go, well, this is 4 years. He hasn't played quarterback in 4 years. And that'll be it, and that'll be the end of his career.
The ability to delay this makes the ability to keep delaying it even stronger. And, you know, last year, week 2, Thursday night, Cam Newton, foot injury, ends up done for the year. Ben Roethlisberger, Sunday, Seahawks, elbow goes done for the year. Drew Brees hits his hand on Aaron Donald. He's out for 6 weeks, although they had their backup plan in place. But between the Steelers and the Panthers, you know, and if something like that here's the thing. Maybe it's all dormant for now. And maybe what the commissioner said last night won't kick it up again. And maybe the incident that happened in Wisconsin yesterday won't kick it up again, but maybe it will. If a quarterback goes down with a serious injury in September, I think it's going to be a lot harder this year to justify not bringing Colin Kaepernick in and giving him a fair opportunity to make the team. Although what we'll hear is what we heard last year. Next man up. Our roster's ready. The guy knows our offense. We don't want to bring in a stranger.
Right.
All the excuses that have been used over and over again are going to be trotted out again, Chris. And before George Floyd, I said, this is done. This is over. Kaepernick's never playing in the NFL. I had a 3 or 4 week period after George Floyd where I thought, hey, this has a chance. But I started talking to people. Hey, is anybody reaching out? No. Remember that report from NFL media? They're talking to friends and associates of Colin Kaepernick. Talk to him.
Yeah.
Talk to him. Talk to his agent. It's like he's radioactive, and no one's going to touch him with a 40-foot pole. So I think that they can talk all they want, but I'd be stunned at this point if he ends up back in the league.
No, I would too. And just with this, the COVID-19 offseason, things like that, coaches got their hands full right now. They've already started to formulate their teams and figured out finally the process in which to go about training camp in this new day and age on a day-to-day basis and all that. And most of them aren't going to want to deal with the curveball of Colin Kaepernick and the added attention of all of that, whether it's right or wrong. I do think there is that aspect too, and I think the ship for Colin Kaepernick has probably sailed as far as NFL football is concerned.
One last thing before we go, as react in real time to the developments that are happening while we're discussing other things. BioReference Laboratories issuing a statement Monday morning to explain what resulted in 77 false positives for 11 different teams over the weekend. Here's the statement, Chris. On August 22, BioReference Laboratories reported an elevated number of positive COVID-19 PCR test results for NFL players and personnel at multiple clubs. The NFL immediately took necessary actions to ensure the safety of the players and personnel. Our investigation indicated that these were most likely false positive results caused by an isolated contamination during test preparation in the New Jersey laboratory. Reagents, analyzers, and staff were all ruled out as possible causes, and subsequent testing has indicated that the issue has been resolved. All individuals impacted have been confirmed negative and informed. That's the statement from John R. Cohen, Executive Chairman of BioReference Laboratories. Boiling that down to English, and I'm going to apologize in advance. Sorry, Mom. They'll bleep me. They're taping this. Those words that I just read can be explained as happens. That's the official explanation from BioReference Laboratories. Sometimes happens, and happened, and that's all we can tell you. We don't know how it happened. We don't know why it happened, but hey, it happens. That's not very comforting as it relates to 256 regular season games and 13 postseason games, the possibility of shit happening again. Sorry to Kristen Coleman in advance, who has to edit all of my various profanity, but it's the perfect explanation for what they're saying.
It is. And, man, you said it 3 times. Wow, it's impressive right there. I mean, you're right. I don't know what that means either. Contamination, I mean, I don't know either way. But either way, you know, to echo your sentiments, that better not happen once we start regular season football, because it's going to mess up a lot of people's lives, and ours included. So hopefully they can get some of these kinks worked out, whatever that is, and maybe we'll hear a little bit more transparency as far as what exactly, you know, isolated contamination means.
I mean, I'm sorry, BioReference Laboratories, but I dealt with this kind of corporate doublespeak for years when I was practicing law. You have found a way to piece together 300 words, 200 words, whatever it is, and it says nothing. Yeah. It says nothing. Isolated contamination, but they have ruled out reagents, analyzers, and staff. Well, what the hell happened? Did a bird fly in the window? I mean, well, how do you...
Did you spill like a positive COVID-19 test on the 77 other tests? I don't understand that either.
And that's the thing. How does the contamination occur? Does it occur spontaneously? Somebody had to have done it. It's not like somebody's walking by with a box full of COVID-19 that falls onto the test samples. There's got to be a better explanation than this. I reject this explanation, and I reject it because until they know exactly what happened and until they know how to keep it from happening again, we're going to have to deal with this every day there's an NFL game, or every day there isn't. The constant possibility that there's going to be this huge uptick in positives that may derail a game, derail a team, set a roster back 10 guys, and then they're going to have to make tough decisions about what to do, all because happened in one of the 5 BioReference laboratories.
Yeah, well, and you know, to add to that, in a year where, like, practice is at a premium right now, coaches are feeling the pressure. They're under a time crunch. I mean, it was just a few days ago their guys were running wind sprints. Now we're going, holy crap, we got to get ready for a game here coming around the corner. So to lose a day of practice like some teams did yesterday, or have the wrench thrown into their plans, man, you know, just another thing to deal with some of these football teams where it's hard enough as is to get ready for week 1. So, yeah, I don't know, Mike, you're right. I mean, it was a lot of nonsense in that little comment there.
Well, let's just hope that whatever the truth is, they know it and they've chosen to conceal it, as opposed to, we don't know what happened, right? Let's hope they know, and let's hope they're not revealing it, and that they fix it. I'll be fine with it if it ends up being fixed. This just doesn't inspire a whole lot of confidence in me that we're not going to have a situation like this pop up on a Sunday between week 1, week 17, or wild card round, or divisional round, or championship round, or Super Bowl Sunday. Could you imagine? Could you imagine something like that happening? So hopefully they know, hopefully they'll have a plan, and hopefully this won't happen again. What will happen again is PFT Live every weekday morning until they tell us to stop. PFT OT on the days we have other things to talk about. Chris Simms has plenty of things to talk about later today on Chris Simms Unbuttoned. Check out ProFootballTalk.com all day long. Everybody have a great day. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you Tuesday.
See ya.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.